Alrighty, let's get this party started. Welcome to Scented Pages. Hello. Welcome and welcome back to my channel, baby. Look, I got a new reading situation. I got a new bookshelf. So I just wanted to do a quick update, let you see what I got going on here and what I've been reading for the past 2-3 weeks. It's been fun. So as you can see, I've got this cute little wine. Let me stand up so that you can really get a good look at it. So my mom gave me this really pretty chair and I love it. But I decided to get this gold circle bookshelf. I thought it was really cute. I was able to do like a little, it's so pretty. I love it. I said it's my golden circle. I feel like it's like a portal into my fantasy world, and then I have all my little fantasy books and stuff on it. I was like, it is my golden circle. I love it. It's so me. It's so cute. I love that it's not on the floor, that it's up off the floor. I love this chair, and that my mom gave me this really pretty chair that's like perfect. It fits perfectly. It matches perfectly with the bookshelf, and I could not be more in love. So this is going to be my new little setup that I'm going to be coming to you all with from, well, I'm not going to say from here on, but for a little while longer, I'll have this little setup and be getting through this situation here, all these books. Speaking of which, I am reading 2 books from off this shelf. I got some tea. And I'm going to do the perfume in a second. But hold on. I got 2 books that I'm reading from off this shelf. And they're really good. I had started this one. Look, I got my markers falling out of it. I had started this Love 101. I'm going to do a video on this one because this was really good. I started this maybe around a couple weeks ago, around Valentine's Day. And like I said before, even though I don't celebrate, so I try to do more of a just kind of me-centered kind of thing. If I want to do, like a little theme or whatever. But this was about self-love. And it's called Love 101. And, about the most important love of yourself and being self-disciplined and self-aware and growing and things like that. It was really good. So I'm going to take some notes on it and re-update you about this. This was cute. I like this book. It's called Love 101 and it's by Peter McWilliams. This was good. Then I'm also reading as you can see, I have really, really annotated. This is really good. I kind of like anything by Eric Butterworth. He's really good. But this is Discover the Power Within You, a guide to the unexplained depths within. This is good. I'm not going to discuss this one on my channel, but as you can see, it is definitely worth the read if you are into a good nonfiction, self-growth, like metaphysical teacher, kind of like on the lines of Neville Goddard and things like that. If you like those type of people, then you'll enjoy Eric Butterworth. This is good. So those are the 2 books, the nonfiction books that that I've been reading the past couple weeks off of my bookshelf here. Now from the library that I went to, I did go to the library. I think it was last week. I got a whole lot of really fun books from the library. I might do a video where I show you my library haul. I probably will, but I'm doing the Prada Plan by Ashley Antoinette. I like her. I like this book, and this is good. I like all of the books by her. I'm actually almost done Ethic. Like, I know I started Ethic. I know that, and I'm not saying that it wasn't a good series. Ethic was good. It was just kind of draining. And then when I got away from it, I had a hard time getting back into it. But however, this week I restarted because I only had like 3.5 hours left of the last book of the series. this past week, I was like, let me go ahead and start these last 3.5 or so hours. And it actually re-piqued my interest, which I'm happy about. So I'm going to finish the last of that Ethic series, which is by Ashley Intimate. And because what I'm really interested in is seeing how Messiah and Morgan deal with things. I want to read the butterfly series that Messiah and Morgan are in. That's the story I really want to see unfold too. So I'm definitely over the Okafors. Like, I'm over Ethic and Alani, and they're all of them. I'm more interested in Messiah and what's that damn girl's name? Morgan. Is that her name? Yes. So that's going to be fun. I want to get into that series. And then I started this, like I said, I went to the library and I started this Prada plan. This is good. This is, where's the synopsis? Okay, on the back. It says, Desire Morgan's infatuation with money knows no limits, and she will do anything to get it. When she's accepted into a New York organization known as the Elite, she is under the impression that she will be a high-paid model, but soon realizes that she's stepped into a world of sex and lies. She is befriended by Leah, the head mistress of the Elite, and together they make more money than they can spend. Nothing is too erotic for the pair, and Desire soon finds herself knee-deep in a world where no means yes and there's no way out. She meets Indy and falls hopelessly in love with him, while she tries her hardest to keep her lifestyle a secret. But everything done in the dark eventually comes to light. When she loses control of her own hustle, things go horribly wrong, and she learns the hard way that in the game she's playing, there are no winners. This is really good. I'm on page 136, and I'm just enjoying it and in love already. So, my little kitty cat bookmark. So, and then, let me see. Let me read you the synopsis for these two also, because these are good too. Let me see. Discover the Power Within by Eric Butterworth says, in this 40th anniversary edition of Eric Butterworth's inspiring tour de force, the author shares the greatest discovery of all time, the ability to see the divine within us all. Jesus saw this divine dimension in every human being, and Butterworth reveals his hidden and untapped resource to be a source of limitless abundance. Exploring this depth potential, Butterworth outlines ways in which we can release the power unlocked within us for better health, greater confidence, increased success, and inspired openness to let our light shine forth for others. This was really good. I'm enjoying it, as you can see. Then Love 101. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance by Peter McWilliams. And there isn't a synopsis, but I will be doing a little breakdown of it. Some of my favorite little points or whatnot, just of this book. It was really good. So then I read let's do the perfume. Because this smells so good. Let me scoot around a teeny bit. This smells really good. It's designed by Paul Sebastian. So I have Designed by Paul. This was released in 1985, and I wanna go over the notes. I like to go over the notes while I'm recording, so that I can react in real time and see what's really in it. So let me see. The main accords in design are white floral, animalic, musky, tuberose, floral, fruity, and powdery. I've been, this smells, this is on its way to being in my top 5, honestly. Because I've been sleeping on this. I didn't realize that this was as beautiful as it is. Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay, so it says that it's an oriental floral fragrance for women. And like I said, it was launched in 1985. It has top notes of tuberose, jasmine, orange blossom, and peach. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's it's heavy on the floral. It's definitely it smells so good. Middle notes are gardenia, honeysuckle, carnation, lilac, ylang ylang rose. Yeah, it's real floral. It's real pretty. I love it. Base notes are musk, civet, sandalwood, and blackcurrant. Now, I did look and see that civet, I think I might have noticed this in another perfume note before, civet. And it's like this little animal. And I'm like, I clicked on it because I was like, well, what in the world? Where would a scent come from an animal? And I was like, the only thing that I could imagine is if it's some sort of like secretion of like from a gland or something. And I was like, ew, I hope it's not secretion. And lo and behold, I clicked on it. And what is it? Okay, so it's in the group of the musk, amber, animalic smells. Its odor profile is naturally the byproduct of the anal glands of exotic civet cats. Not byproduct anal gland. Anal gland byproduct. I don't want anal gland byproduct. You can keep it. Which smells very pungent and fecal, but which gives an amazing radiance and warmth to florals. Well, I bet. And now synthetically replicated with Civitone for ethical reasons. Well, thank goodness for that. Because, pew, goodness gracious. But I was looking at, the scent notes, and I just find it amazing how they somehow extract and get these perfumes from these, flowers and different animals and stuff. I find the whole process amazing. So, yeah, that's designed by Paul Sebastian. Now, okay. So I think what I want to do first is the longest review. I read like 5 books, and the one that I want to talk about the most, that's the longest, is the one that I did for Black History Month. I read Madness by Antonia Hilton. So, I'm going to read my full review. It might take me a little second, but because I took a lot of notes, it was such a good nonfiction book. And then I read 4 other books that we'll get into. So, let me see. Okay. So, this is going to take a minute. So, let me get a little sip. Oh, my son put this together for me, so it has a little more, even more sentimental value to me. Because of that, I love it even more. It's really sturdy, and I really like it. I'm just really proud of it. The whole thing is just so, I'm so excited. So anyway, Madness by Antonia Hilton. I gave 5 stars, 10 stars out of 5 stars. I said I enjoyed Black History Month. I enjoy Black History Month so much because it's always the month that I choose to purposely and consciously learn something new. I love learning about Black history and the lives of Black historical figures. We've all grown up learning about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Rosa Parks. We all know a lot about the history of states like Alabama and Georgia and the Carolinas, but there is so much Black history in other states that's also fun to learn about and explore. Just going to the library in your state and looking up old historical news articles and finding out about the people, events, and history that have happened right in your own hometown can be really fun and eye-opening. And that's how it was for me this year. I ended up learning about this Negro psychiatric facility located in Crownsville, Maryland, called the Crownsville Hospital Center. I don't even really know how I came across the book Madness by Antonia Hilton. She's a black American journalist and NBC News correspondent who graduated magna cum laude from Harvard University, where she majored in history, science, and global health. I was like, okay, credentials. Come on, degree. You know what I'm saying? 3 different degrees, 3 different majors. Okay, I like it. Her website is AntoniaHilton.com. I'll put the link in the description. And it's spelled Antonia, AntoniaHylton.com. And I'm giving full credit to her for everything in this video. And I'm so grateful to her for writing it and for doing all the research. I think she said it took her like 10 years to interview all the people and to do all the research and all the things that had to be done for for this book. And I'm really grateful to her that she did it, because it was a great educational piece for me and a wonderful read. So my hat's off to her. So I'm giving full credit to her for everything that I share on my channel from her book. So she said that what compelled her to research and write about the history of race and mental illness in America was first fury at the lack of mental health services and support available in the country for the poor and people of color. People can't afford therapy that they know that they need, and they can't find providers who look like them, and that's really unacceptable. And then her second reason for doing it was curiosity. And I was like, honey, same. I said, I love a good morbid kind of curiosity moment. I said, like last year when I read the book Human Remains, and I got so curious about the bacteria and the processes of the breakdowns of the human body after death, I said it was the grossest chokehold of my life for like weeks. And as gross as it was, I was fine because it was interesting. It was a very interesting topic. There's nothing, there's not too much that's funner to me than something tugging at my interest that I can't let go of. And I just follow it down this deep rabbit hole. I said, I had never learned about that topic before, and I love having a new topic of interest that gives me something fun to research and do. The same thing kind of happened with this, except I've always liked learning about mental health. I just never really specifically learned about Black Americans in mental health history, their issues or facilities. So Antonia said that she also was just curious about what happens to Black people when they go mad. And she goes on to give a lot of historical facts about Maryland's very racist history that I didn't know about. I said, I'm sure that a lot of states, every state probably in America, has a very racist history and foundation. But some specific things that I learned through this book was that Annapolis wasn't at just one time Maryland's state capital, but the nation's state capital. And Maryland had never joined the Confederacy, but the state also didn't outlaw slavery until 1864, which was a year after the Emancipation Proclamation. Throughout the 1850s and 60s, Maryland lawmakers passed resolutions that barred Black people from assembling for religious events, owning dogs or guns, or being educated. And Annapolis, Maryland, is literally where 17-year-old Kunta Kinte from Roots, goodness gracious, was brought to aboard the ship the Lord Ligonier, Ligonier, in 1764, and sold into a horrific life of slavery right here from Maryland. Who knew? I didn't know. I've been hearing about and learning about Roots and Kunta Kinte my whole life. Why didn't I know that his ship was, that he was sold into slavery right here in Maryland. It seemed like that would have been something that I would know, that we would know. Honey, well, I learned it this year. So, it says this facility was basically started because of the very racist issues of what to do with not only the black mentally ill of society, but also anyone that they deemed just a bit off. The foundation of psychiatric care in America for blacks is deeply steeped and rooted in immense racism. And that is such an unfortunate thing, because it's easy to see why it has then taken so long and been such an arduous journey to getting black Americans back to mental health, mentally healthy. And it's why we still have so much further to go. A lot of the white founding fathers of psychiatry, like sociologist Howard W. Odum, had very biased thoughts and opinions on the psychiatry of black people, people like him. What he said specifically. Where was I? He says, okay, Howard W. Odum felt that the need black people felt to migrate and rove about was natural to blacks, because black people seek to avoid all circumstances which would tend to restrict our freedom. He just believed that a black person's desire for autonomy and mobility was just the byproduct of a self-indulgent lifestyle, that the Negro had no pride in their ancestry, no ideals, and no lasting adherence to an aspiration of worth. Yeah, and I was like, really? So our tendency to run away and keep moving wasn't just because people was trying to get away from the horrors of what they did. That's why black people, especially back then, felt that need to have to migrate and to move, or to keep moving, to migrate from the south to the north, because they were running for their lives. Terrible. But then they use that as a way to label black people as all kinds of crazy and divergent and whatnot. Oh, goodness. Terrible. And I said, there was also Samuel Cartwright, who was a physician and professor at the University of Louisiana. And he coined the term drapetomania, which I also learned about that term in the other book that I'm still reading. It's I'm having a hard time reading that book. Black AF History. He talks about drapetomania in there, which is the mental illness that will cause a slave to run away. Terrible. This was usually triggered by slave owners who treated their slaves with too much kindness. Terrible. And also, now this word is hard for me to pronounce. Diastasia Athacopia. I'll put the word on the screen. It's spelled Dyasaethisia. And then it's another word, Aethiopia, which is the mental illness behind laziness among slaves. Terrible. I said all that to say that these are just two examples of the thoughts about black mentality that the founding physicians of psychiatry held and began black mental health care on. Crownsville would be the first and only facility in Maryland, and likely in the country, that would make its patients build their own hospital from the ground up. The facility wasn't just an extra, facility to have for the black mentally ill of Maryland. It was for any black person who was just mentally unwell or feeble-minded or maladjusted. You could have just been bad, or unwanted, or an orphan kid, and you would find yourself at this horrible hospital for no reason. So here is where I am able to get into a little bit of the deep creepiness about the entire facility. there were a lot of rumors about Crownsville and mental patients in it, around the area of Crownsville, Maryland, and I could imagine that there was a lot of lore and rumor and what's the word? I guess maybe I do want to say lore behind, this facility that's housing quote unquote crazy people, real people and not. It was like the boogeyman, of that era. That is so crazy. Oh my goodness. Because, so, the reason why is because people would literally threaten people with being, threaten black people with being sent there. And they would have these people called night doctors, and they were people who would roam the streets at nights under the cover of darkness to kidnap black people and bring them in against their will. So like if a fight broke out and you were caught in the streets and you was young and unsupervised, you could just be taken to Crownsville, never to be heard of again by the people who love you. That's, oh my goodness, that's horrifying. And people were sent there for like the slightest indication of ill health or inform or like non-conforming, like not conforming. Oh my goodness. In 1969, Judge Thomas J. Curley was pushing for an emergency legislation. He concedes that his court had sent scores of people charged with minor crimes to Crownsville. Terrible. Judge Curley points out that for years, the accepted method of having a person committed to a mental hospital when he didn't want to be committed was for a relative or a friend to file a minor criminal charge against him, such as disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, assault. They could contrive and many times falsify charges that would land them in this facility for years or the rest of their life. Oh my goodness. That is disgusting. They would just be snatched up by the police and taken to a judge and then off to the hospital. Judge Curley hoped that lawmakers would pass a bill that gave courts the right to order law enforcement to take someone into custody who was living with a mental illness and possibly a danger. He admitted to sentencing people, so they needed to do a little more screening than just, oh, any old reason, I'm going to just take you into this facility, Ask for more questions. Make sure that they're an actual threat and danger to other people around them and themselves, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I understand that. He admitted to sentencing people to Crownsville in open secret. Oh my goodness. I said one lady was accused of making a nonsense phone call to her son. Children, and she was sent there. Children would be sent there who were orphaned and unwanted, and nobody wanted to adopt children from, this insane asylum. I guess that's kind of understandable. And there was a story in there, this example in there of two little boys who had actually become friends later on in the facility's history, like around 1963 after they had integrated. Because in the beginning, when it was started in why didn't I write when it was started? I think it was started in 1911. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the video. It was just a Negro asylum only for black people, and it was and it adhered to the Jim Crow laws, which was another thing that I didn't know, that Maryland lived by Jim Crow laws in that time in the early 1900s. Disgusting. But at this point in time, it was 1963, and by that point, the facility had integrated, and it was about 70% black and maybe 30% white. So these two little boys had become friends in this facility they were in, and they weren't mentally ill. They were just like orphaned or whatever. They just didn't have parents. So they had become friends in this facility, and of course it was hard to find somebody to adopt two boys, and they were taken through this whole process, and they weren't adopted together, and they were separated. But I wonder what came of them. Like, they were eventually adopted each, to a separate home or whatever. But I wonder if when they became adults, maybe they seeked each other out to maybe be friends or whatever. I wonder what became of them. But I thought that was interesting. Also, let me see. I learned a lot about the black staff that really tried to help the people and conditions in this facility. So also later on, in the facility's history, they integrated and integrated black staff onto the staff also. Black people onto the staff also, because prior to then it was just this horrific hierarchy of race and lording it over people off of race. So now that they've integrated the black physicians and nurses, and people have come in and trying to honestly make things better. So one person that I learned about, and I really liked his example, was Dr. Camper. And it said, I learned a lot about the black staff that really tried to help the people and conditions in this facility, like Marie Goth and Gertrude Belt, and also the first black psychiatric doctor who worked there. His name was Dr. J.E.T. Camper, and that's Dr. John Emery Toussaint Camper, 1894 to 1997 is when he died. He was a black Maryland physician, veteran, and civil rights activist. This was a person that I had never heard of, and I enjoyed learning about him, especially him being a local person, who was doing things right here in Maryland. It says he was a black Maryland physician, veteran, and civil rights activist who devoted his career to seeking racial justice and equality. And he was also an instrumental leader in the Baltimore branch of the NAACP. In 1942, Dr. Camper and Juanita Mitchell worked with the Citizens of Committee for Justice and led 2,000 people in a march on Annapolis to protest of the wrongful death of a black man that's been going by the police. That's been going on for years. The wrongful death of a black man by the police named Thomas Brodus. Brodus was a black enlisted soldier from Pittsburgh who was shot and killed by a white police officer. So so they did the protest for them, and that was good. That was interesting. I had never heard of that. Dr. Camper was also a founding member of Medelso, which was a club for black physicians and dentists that would use their money and education to fight injustice. He died in 1997 at age 83 after 57 years of medical practice. Yay! So I thought that was another little fun person to learn about. I did my little fact check, my little teeny bit of research. That was fun. So I went on to say, Dr. Camper was very instrumental in the releasing of patients who were being unfairly held at Crownsville. He uncovered patients that were well enough to be released, but being held at Crownsville because of the value of their services. Disgusting. One girl was being held at the superintendent's at that time's home as a servant. The hospital would just claim that they needed a patient, and keeping them there was doing no further harm. So so why not? Oh my goodness. They would extend patient stays to meet production needs. Disgusting. Then there was the story of Mr. Bell. Oh my goodness, this story touched my heart. He was this British man, and so he had an accent. And he was seen one day looking lost in Baltimore by one of the white supervisors at Crownsville. And after they spoke, this supervisor thought that Bell sounded funny, and he was convinced that he was using a fake accent. So he put this man in the car and brought him to Crownsville, where this man was lost in the sauce for 60 years. I was like, oh my goodness. Horrifying. When they finally discovered him, he hadn't been outside to see or feel the sun for decades. Gross. And that was what was so horrifying to me. All the things that can happen to us that are out of our control, especially back then. All of the things that they just experienced that just happened to them because they were black. That's just so unfortunate. And he was in that facility, that disgusting facility, with none reason to be there for no reason for like 60 years of his life gone. And that's a real story. Like, that really happened to somebody. I also really like reading memoirs and stuff. I be wanting people to write their books and to write their stories and to say what in the world and what they've been through and how they got out of situations and grew from things. I was looking to see how long I've been talking for. Okay, it's not that bad. So, then there was this part where one of the workers was describing just how eerie that facility was, especially at that time period where they weren't caring for the patients. And so, yeah, you could be a sane person wrongfully sent there, but also there were legit crazy people there. So there would be people screaming throughout the facility and just being violent and stuff. It was just a mess of a facility. They closed it down back in 2004. I believe. I'll make sure and put it in the video description. But the story of Mr. Bell was also very interesting to me. I said, because that's why I like thrillers. And sometimes I like a thriller or a horror book to not end on such a happy and satisfying note, because that's not real, especially in those kinds of genres. What makes horror really truly scary is that it doesn't always end up and wrap up so neatly and satisfying. A lot of times in real life, when S hits the fan, it doesn't always end well. You just kind of have to roll with it, dust off your shoulders, and get up and keep it pushing. You know? That's just so unfortunate, though, you know? I mean, what a just unfortunate waste of life, you know, to just have to go through that. But at least at the end, they found him, and the people who cared came into the facility, and they did the best that they could. Like I said, I learned about a lot of people who, there were quite a few people, the other nurses and things, who helped and did what they could along the way of making the patients, improving their stays and things. It was a really good book. I enjoyed it. You should read it. It read fast for nonfiction and for informative. Excellent. Mwah. Chef's Kiss, 5 out of 5 stars. Madness by Antonia Hilton. Yay. So, moving on now to my regular books. Let me see. I just screenshotted them so that I wouldn't have to be clicking around for a long time. Okay. Well, let me see. It absolutely did not do everything that I needed to do. I saved, okay, the descriptions and not my whatever. Hopefully it'll work smoothly and we can keep it pushing. So, first I read The Crash, and I read it with my daughter, by Freida McFadden, and this was really fun. This was a fun book to read with her. It was so good. So The Crash by Freida McFadden says, Tegan is 8 months pregnant, alone, and desperately wants to put her crumbling life in the rearview mirror. So she hits the road, planning to stay with her brother until she can figure out her next move. But she doesn't realize she's heading straight into a blizzard. She never arrives at her destination. Stranded in rural Maine with a dead car and broken ankle, Tegan worries she's made a terrible mistake. Then a miracle, she is rescued by a couple who offers her a room in their warm cabin until the snow clears. But something isn't right. Tegan believes she was waiting out the storm, but as time ticks by, she comes to realize that she's in grave danger. This safe haven isn't what she thought it was, and staying here may have been her most deadly mistake. And now she must do whatever it takes to save herself and her unborn child. A gut-wrenching story of motherhood, survival, and twisted expectations. Yay! #1 New York Times bestselling author Frida McFadden delivers a snowbound thriller that will chill you to the bone. It was so good. It was a good wintertime read. It was fun that she released it. And now she released it not too long ago. January, of this year, January 28th. It was fun. I liked it. Let me see. So I said, what a great book. My daughter and I listened to this together. Frida writes the best books for mother-daughter reading time. My baby is 16, and it's such a blessing that Frida is so talented with writing a good story that she and I can be engrossed in something together. She writes well enough for generations to engage in together and still find a common ground to connect with one another on. Not only are her books fun to read, but it also opens the lines of communications between my daughter and I. I get to find out what her opinions are on certain things and how she would handle certain situations, and etc. I love it. She and I finished this book together yesterday when I wrote this. While we cooked and ate, it was so much fun. She and I have even FaceTime one another to listen to a juicy book together. My brain was very happy and buzzing with joy. I said all my mommy hormones were firing, and I felt extremely fulfilled. I was on cloud 9 from reading with her. I was on cloud 9 from reading with her for hours after we were finished. She wasn't floating around nearly as excited as I was, but it's fine. So the one thing that she did say, my daughter did say, about the book was that it could have done without as many twists in the end. She said that she wished, well, I won't say that part because I don't want to give it away. But she did say that she wished that it didn't have as many twists. Blah, 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 blah. And she wished that the end result was a little different too. I'm trying not to give too much away because I don't want to give the if I'm not going to do a summary review of the book, I don't want to give the twists away or the whole daggone book. I just want you to read it. It's good. So it was The Crash. I ended up giving it 3 stars. No, I gave it 4 stars. I think I did that because Polly and Tegan were just both annoying. It was a well-written book, but they were both the worst. I said Polly and Tegan were both pretty annoying and insufferable. Tegan did more damage to herself mentally by just laying in the bed creating stories and fears about Hank instead of figuring out how to get herself out of the situation. Polly was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It needs to be institutionalized. And if Hank has any lick of sense about himself, he'll see to it that that happens for both of their sakes. Polly was a trip. The book was good. I loved it. So definitely read it. I could say the rest of that. I'm not going to say any more about it. Okay. The other book that I got to was, let me see. She started it, which I don't have to talk about that one because I already did the summary review of that. It was so good. 5 out of 5. Loved it. Then I also did The Last Time I Saw You by Liv Constantine. Excellent. I loved it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. So this one says, the internationally best-selling author of The Last Parish follows that success with an addictive novel filled with shocking twists about the aftermath of a brutal high society murder. This was so good. This was another one that was set here in Maryland. I love a cute book that's set in Maryland. And I don't know that it's going to be set in Maryland. What a treat. Yay, yay. So it says Dr. Kate English has it all. Oh, you see my slippers? My little teddy bears? It says Dr. Kate English has it all. Not only is she the heiress to a large fortune, she has a gorgeous husband and daughter, a high-flying career, and a beautiful home anyone would envy. But all that changes the night Kate's mother, Lily, is found dead, brutally murdered in her own home. Heartbroken and distraught, Kate reaches out to her estranged best friend, Blair Barrington, who rushes to her side for the funeral, where the years of distance between them are forgotten in a moment. That evening, Kate's grief turns to horror when she receives an anonymous text. "You think you're sad now? Just wait. By the time I'm finished with you, you'll wish you had been buried today." More than ever, Kate needs her old friend's help. Yeah, honey, that was kind of giving Pretty Little Liars. Remember them daggone texts that they used to get in that show? That show irritated me too, but it was so good and juicy. It says once Blair decided to take the take the investigation into her own hands, it becomes clear that all is not as it seems in Baltimore high society. As infidelity, lies, and betrayals come to light and tensions rise to a boiling point, she begins to alienate Kate's friends and relatives with her relentless accusatory questions as she tries to find Lily's killer. The murderer could be anyone, friend, neighbor, loved one. But whoever it is, it's clear that Kate is next on their list. In The Last Time I Saw You, Liv Constantine takes the lightning pace of The Last Mrs. Parrish and raises the stakes, creating an exquisitely tension-filled and absorbing tale of psychological suspense in which innocent lives and one woman's fantasy hang in the balance. Not the balance. I love it. It was so good. I gave it 5 stars. It was just as good as The Last Mrs. Parrish and the other books by her that I read. I love it. It's always fun to read their books. I gave it 5 stars. I said, I loved this unputdownable book. I couldn't stop reading it once I started, and I also really liked that it's set in Baltimore. It mentions so many areas and streets that I'm familiar with. And that was really cute and fun. The twist and ending was perfect for me. I like where everyone ends up. It definitely reminded me of the Mrs. Parrish books, but it was also different, which makes sense since all these books were written by the same people. But it's still unlike the other books enough to read it and be enjoyed. The whole sanity hanging in the balance part is so true for this book. Kate was definitely holding her brain together by the skins of her teeth. For the majority of this book, she was. That's funny. So much so that I thought the twist was going to be that she's crazy and is in the middle of an episode of some sort. It's kind of like in the style of The Woman in the Window. But no, she's just anxious and mean as a wet cat to her poor nanny. I felt so bad for that lady the whole book. But to Kate's credit, she was truly stressed and had every reason to be. Because she was getting those really creepy text messages and threats. And other things that made the book so compelling and good to read. Laughing my ass off. It was good. 5 stars. 5 stars. I loved it. I love me a good Liv Constantine. Adele Parks. Oh yes. Love it. It was so good. So then the last book that I did, which I really enjoyed too. I enjoyed it. It was good. You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Okay. Just stick with me for a second on Miss Geneva Rose, because I liked it, but the twist. So listen to what it's about. You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. Grace Evans, an overworked New Yorker looking for a total escape from her busy life, books an Airbnb on a ranch in the middle of Wyoming. When she arrives, she's pleasantly surprised to find that the owner is a handsome man by the name of Calvin Wells. But there are things, Grace discovers, that she's not too pleased about. a lack of cell phone service, a missing woman, and a feeling that something isn't right with the town. Despite her uneasiness and misgivings from Calvin's friends and family, the two grow close and start to fall for one another. However, as her departure date nears, things between them start to change for the worse. Grace grows wary of Calvin as his infatuation for her seems to turn into obsession. Calvin fears that Grace is hiding something from him. Told from dual points of view, You Shouldn't Have Come Here is a thrill ride and a cautionary tale of what can go wrong when you open up your house and your heart to a total stranger. And that was the thing that got me about this book. These people was doing so much with so little. They really, really were total strangers to one another and just weirdly falling head over heels in love. And I could not understand. But then at the same time, I got it because it was the thriller book and I was here for it and it was so good. It was really juicy. It was really good all the way through until the ending. I wasn't here for the twist. I didn't like the twist. You know, it pulled and it tugged, but it didn't twist. It didn't twizzle for me. It didn't really give a good twist. Listen, I said, no. I said, I enjoyed this book. A compulsive read. The twist was good. I mean, I wouldn't say it was the queen of all twists, but it was fine. Maybe a little flat. The ending also fell a little flat for me, since it was an extension of the twist. But what else? Still glad I read it. I'll give it 4 stars because it was a fun book to read, but I'm deducting a star for that flat-ass twist in the ending. Could have been better. But then a couple of days had went by and I sat with it. And I got madder as the more I thought about it because I felt like, why? Why did it have to be that good up until the lame ending? And I said, I'm irritated with this book. I finished it last night, but the twist really didn't twist for me. It tugged and it pulled, but it didn't twist, and I'm pissed because it was a good book. Up until that last little ending. I said, Janita is the queen of twists where? Somebody had said that on the internet. I want to know where. I said, no, but I actually do know where. Where she was the queen of twists was in her last book, The Perfect Strangers, which was excellent. I read that over the summer when I went on my to my family reunion. I listened to that while I was in the car, and that was excellent. I loved it. That twist twisted for me. Had my panties in a bunch. I loved it, but this one just didn't really get me there, and I took a star off for it. And it's okay. It's okay. I still liked it. It was good. So that's it. I think I talked enough. Oh my goodness. And I talked about everything that I wanted to. I'll probably maybe do another video with my library books and some other little catching ups that I want to talk about and other little books and stuff. But I guess that's it for right now. I'm about to enjoy my weekend and relax. And I guess I will see you next time.